What's up, everyone? My name is Ed Genesis. I am the host for Truth Talks, which is with TRHT, and that is Truth, Racial Healing, and Transformation Kalamazoo. Truth Talks is a panel where we have a platform where we have panelists talk about real things pertaining to community and social issues. Got to give a shout out to Shalana Lewis for supporting us and encouraging something like this, which is real. And I got to give a shout out to retired Captain Stacy Ledbetter, who is the co-creator with myself for Truth Talk. With no further ado, I'm going to go through the touchstones. Today, we're talking about beauty standards within the Black and Brown culture and all of the nuances with that. And with that, let's get ready to dive in. I'm going to do the touchstones and then introduce the amazing panelists. So, touchstones are: be 100% present, extending and presuming welcome. Speak your truth. Identify assumptions and suspend judgment. Respect and learn from silence. Maintain confidentiality. No language of the soul is privilege over any other language of the soul. Value feeling as much as knowing. No fixing, no saving, no advising. Trust the healing process, your own heart, and the hearts of others. Listen deeply. When things get difficult, turn to wonder, and always by invitation. I want to introduce the amazing panelists. I will start with Francis, who is with TRHT and my fam. If you can introduce yourself and just popcorn it over to the next person, we can get this going. Thank you.
Thank you, my good bros. Good to see you, Ed. Good to see you, everyone. My name is Francis Vicioso. My pronouns are she and they. I'm co-manager with Emily Olivares at Truth, Racial Healing, Transformation Kalamazoo, housed at the Kalamazoo Community Foundation. And I'm a Black Latina, and I'm fat, and I'm beautiful, and I'm ready to have this conversation. I'm going to call next on Deborah. You're muted, Deborah.
Didn't do that. Sorry about that. Hi, everybody. I'm Deborah. Glad to be here. Glad for everyone else to be here. I'm a stylist, a Black woman, and a naturalist. I specialize in natural hair, natural beauty, and all things beauty, really. And I'm just excited to be here and in on the conversation. Oh, and I guess I'll move over to Miss Kalia.
Hi everyone, my name is Kalia and I'm really excited to be here and talk about what I think is beauty. And I really like to do hair and practice. I'm a mannequin and I do want to do hair like my aunt when I grow up. And also I am starting to make a lip gloss for a business that I will be launching in August. Miss Kathy.
Thank you, Miss Kalia. Hello, everybody. My name is Kathy Faison. I'm a nail tech. I also work as an organizer for the overdose crisis as well as criminal justice reform, rural areas, Kalamazoo. I also work on participatory defense. And so I also work on housing through TRHT and Isaac. So I am happy to be here. I'm happy to be part of this panel. I am natural. I have been for years, and I am representing the Black woman being natural. So thank you for having us.
Okay, absolutely. Thank you all for your introductions. Again, I am Ed Genesis, and we're about to get ready to just dive in. So the first question is, how are beauty standards made? However, I want to tweak it just a little bit by saying we live in a society where things are suggested to us, to say the least, because suggestion would be like, hey, you might want to wear that black shirt instead of the red shirt. But we live in a society where the black shirt becomes the standard, and anything less than that becomes like, why do you have that on? Why are you wearing that? And when we get into that, then it no longer is about us so much as it is pleasing other people. And so that's why I really wanted to start, like, and we're going to dive into it a little later, but how are beauty standards made? I want to ask personally in your life. So how are things suggested? How are beauty standards made within what you see? What's the word? I don't want to say promoted. I want to say pushed onto you. And I want to start with the youth. Ms. Kalia, what do you think about how beauty standards are made? Who do you think are making these things up?
Could you repeat that? I couldn't hear you.
Who do you think are making the beauty standards? Like, who said that this is beauty and this is not? How do you think those things are made? Who's coming up with some of that?
I think that I don't really, what's the word?
Speak up.
I think I can't think of the word.
Take your time. What is it? What is it like? What is the word like?
I think that the person making up with the beauty, a lot of people tell me that I have to wear makeup and I have to have hair like weave in my head to be beautiful, and having locks is not really for girls. And I think that if that's what you want, then you can have that. And I think that being natural and not wearing makeup is beautiful. Your natural self, not eyelashes and lipstick and hair wigs and nails and all of that. Although I do like playing in makeup and doing all those things and doing hair, I don't think that you have to have that to be beautiful.
That's what I'm talking about. And you are beautiful. Let me say that. I'll tell you that as much as I can, but I want to lift that up and tell you that now. And thank you. That answer was beautiful, because that's exactly the mind frame of society saying these different things. And that's deep that somebody said you couldn't wear locks because you're a young lady. That's like, wow. But that's what society does. And there's so many different things that they say. So I love that answer. I'm gonna keep that going. I'm gonna kick it over to Francis. Same answer. And especially based off how you introduce yourself, that's why I had to go right to you with that one. How are beauty standards made, or who made them?
Brother Ed, I don't want to jump on the historical train until you are okay with that. First and foremost, I'm an academic, blackademic, ratchademic, right? So I'm gonna do a little history first. Beauty standards, when we're talking about from a historical perspective, had a lot to do with for the gender that bore the children. So traditionally women in most cultures. It had a lot to do with fertility and health. So way back when, if we can think about the Venus painting by Botticelli, right? It's this white woman, long, beautiful hair, and kind of curvy, right? Has like a little tummy, right? And a lot of questions are like, how did that go away? Like, they were thought of as fertile. The more fertile you were, the better that you could produce children. That was beauty for most people, right? As we went through history, there was a need for as the levels of wealth kind of became widened, there was a need to be distinguished from folks who were not rich. So people who were poor had a particular way of living and looking, and people who were rich, the richer that they got, they wanted to distinguish themselves more and more. So that's why some beauty standards almost don't make any sense, right? It's like, so you want to be that thin for real, sis? You not hungry? but it had a lot to do with the distinguishing of class. So, with all that said, I'm not going to go too far down the history rabbit hole, but what I will say is because it's been around so long, it is so ingrained in our societies. Beauty comes from and is different in every culture, right? Um, some people like light skinned women, some people like darker skinned women, depending on what part of the world you're in, the beauty standards are a little different. And for me personally, beauty standards came from mainstream media. It came from my mom. It came from women I saw, women I was surrounded with. I grew up I'm Hispanic, but I grew up in a Jamaican and Haitian neighborhood. So for me, the standard of beauty was like a pretty deep. My goal was to be built like a brick house, right? Like big bottom girl, small waist, Coke bottle shape, right? So that for me was like a beauty standard. Being lighter skinned in the Latin culture is valued. So the fact that I am lighter than a lot of Black people is valued, but I'm actually one of the darker people in my family. I also have loosely curled hair that I decided to wear naturally since for about 10 years now. And something like cornrows was looked down upon in my family. My mother would never let me wear my hair like this as a kid. So I think that family, mainstream media, and just kind of culture in your surroundings really frames beauty standards for most people. Thank you.
Wow, thank you. You went in. I appreciate it. I knew you was. And we're tossing around this word natural. And we know what it is. But I want to, for anybody watching, I want Deborah, you actually do natural hair. You do all types of different hair, but maintaining locks or sporting your own natural look. Before going off into another question, I first want to pose the first one to you, how beauty standards are made. But I have a part two with you, just to spin off what Kalia lifted up, what Kathy lifted up during her introduction, and what Francis just touched on. How are beauty standards made, or who's doing it? But then it's that part that says, what's wrong with Francis's hair? What's wrong with Kalia's hair? Like in our culture and what we see and what's predominant to us, so to speak, these are the standards of beauty. But when they're compared in society, they're pit against one another. Like, well, this is like this and this is like this. So would you please speak to that?
Sure. Well, first of all, I will say that in my personal experience and my personal belief, beauty standards start in the home. They start in the home that you're usually born to. I come from a family full of a lot of strong women, a lot of really opinionated women, and that is where my first ideals of beauty formed. That's where it started. My grandmother, my mother, my aunts, they all have a strong Native American background, and they have a different hair texture even than myself. My hair is a lot tighter, a lot kinkier than most of theirs. Theirs, it grows down their back and it's silky, it's beautiful. These are the things that I saw as a standard of beauty growing up. However, I also saw that I was a little brown girl growing up, a Black girl growing up, and my hair didn't look the same. And so these same women, they kind of instilled in me, hey, there are different hair types, there are different skin colors, so I had a very diverse family as far as what we looked like, our textures, skin color, and everything in between. So I was fortunate and blessed even to be able to see different things and see different standards of beauty in a more vast variety. But that's my belief, that it starts at home and it starts from within the people who nurture you from the beginning. The other part of your question, Ed, I see the people who say, well, she shouldn't wear this, or he shouldn't wear that, or she shouldn't wear this, girls shouldn't do this. I hear what Kalia goes through. I understand, Francis, that you probably go through many of the same things as far as people being opinionated about your natural hair. I don't quite have an answer for it. The only thing that I can offer to that is many people, because of the standards that have been instilled in them, they fear what is different, they fear what is unknown, and it becomes almost like the opposition. It puts them in a different category and almost alienates one type of hair from another, one skin type from another. It causes separations and almost boundaries.
Thank you very much for that. You touched on something. Shame. The definition of shame is the fear of being isolated from others. And nobody wants to feel isolated or be the one person that's doing something, unless you're just one of those creatives. Like I will do something way out sometimes and I don't care what nobody else feels about it. But that's because I had to get over that hump, because I too was told as a young man who's raised by primarily women, I can't do this, I can't say this, I can't sit like this, and you definitely can't wear that. And it's like, well, wow, this makes me feel good. But society says, well, you must have a sexual orientation. In other words, you must be gay because you pay too much attention to yourself as a man. And it's like, who made that up? I didn't understand. And I just remember my own battles of combating with, well, for one, if you're a boy, which is frogs, tails, puppy dogs, frogs, snails, puppy dog tails, and girls are sugar spice, everything nice, then automatically in my mind, by being around a lot of women, I automatically felt like, well, we're second class. We're not the clean or the pretty ones. So that was a blow. And then you try to emulate what you see as being beautiful, and then you're told, well, you can't do that. And it's like, wow. So I don't fit automatically because I'm not a girl. And then I can't even do anything that will accent the way you all can. And it's like, nope, you just deal with whatever you got. And it's like, and through that, I learned to love myself. And then I learned to not care about what society says, but it was a struggle. And I've met a lot of men who did not fare well through that struggle. The opposite side has been, I don't care about anything anymore. And it's not just upkeep, it transfers into other things. And that's a whole nother story, but it's all relative. Kathy, I need you to chime in on the same question. How are beauty standards made, or by whom?
I think for personalization, I have to agree. A lot of it definitely comes from home to begin with, and family, you know. And so for me, even like with my mom, I don't think it was so much as saying you're beautiful if you do this or you're beautiful if you've done that. I think what she kind of more instilled in us was like how you go out of house, how you represent yourself. You know, so it's like you're not going out in pajamas and everything else. So I've watched her over the years say go from an afro to a short haircut to a perm. So it's like, you know, you kind of keeping up with trends. And at the same time, I felt like it's all still about society. You know, that's like now everybody getting implants and everything else. It's like, you know, images are put out and this is what people are expected to look like. And so for me, it was difficult even for me when I went natural, only because um, little things like getting your hair done and nails done, it wasn't so much as to say going out here and pleasing other people. You know, I come from a strong Black woman that went out there and she worked hard every day. And her thing was, this is what we do as women to take care of ourselves, pamper ourselves. Let's do a little bit of something for ourselves. So one thing is like I'm always keeping my hair done and everything else, but at the same time, when I got to the point where I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna stop getting a flat iron and stop doing all that to my hair. I had stopped flat ironing, but I had already been stopped doing perms. But then it was like, you know, you kind of go to work and people looking at you crazy, like, what's wrong with your head? Why are you coming to work like that? And it's like what? And so it's kind of like you said, you have to really go against the grain to say, I'm not going to fit in a category where everybody feels that I need to be. You know, this is me, this is who I am, this is what I represent. And I think that's what it really took, is everybody going against the grain is the best way that I can say it, as far as what society believes that people should look like, to say we can really embrace ourselves. And so that goes back to, like you say, history and everything else. It's like, you know, when you get jobs saying that you can't be hired because of dreads, this is taken away from my culture, you know, or if you're just natural. So it's like, you know, there's so many restrictions. You can't have hair longer than such and such. And I think that it should go both ways. Like you said, being a male, to say, if I decide that I want to have long hair, if I decide that I want to grow dreads, why does that have to make me feminine or put me in the category? I should have every right in order to be able to groom myself in the way that I want to groom myself. And I think that's one of the things that I appreciate coming from my mom, is just being, like you said, being strong. So to say I can stand against what everybody else believes. And I think the more that people embraced it, it's like now the more that it's becoming the norm, to say this is what it is. This is society. This is Black people, and we get a chance to express ourselves. And I'm going back to you too, Deborah. Color, like you said, everybody put in categories when it comes to color, when it comes to hair texture, and it's like we all are the same at the end of the day, regardless. We're gonna come in different shades, we're gonna come different textures. And it's like we have to be taught and we have to teach to love and embrace what it is that we are and what it is that we have.
Thank you very much for that. That actually provides a segue for the next thing. So the next question on the agenda was like, not like, it is, how did that affect you? And I want to lift up, my mother wore her hair short all of my life. I have pictures where her hair was long on her shoulders. And one of the pictures where her hair is on her shoulders is actually my favorite picture. And now through maturity and growth, is now just one of my favorite pictures because she's just beautiful in it. But growing up, it was my favorite picture because her hair was long. All my mother, my grandmother, all my aunts, all of them wore their hair short. But when I was in junior high, I remember I was asked by a few different people, why does your mother wear hair like that? Now, all in elementary, she was the head of PTA, worked at the canteen, which was the school store. Nobody said anything except, your mother's beautiful. And I can't believe that was your mother, because she looked young. But by the time I hit junior high, and it was the school was bigger, it's a little more diverse, even though it was predominantly Black. I was in Gary. It was still just diverse from different sides of towns and different backgrounds and things like that. And people saw my mother, hair was short, and I remember feeling embarrassed, and I couldn't answer. And I didn't know anything about her being able to express herself or anything like that. What I knew by the time I hit 7th grade was women should be like this, and they should have long hair, and they should wear dresses at least every now and then, and it should be, and mind you, I was raised by primarily women. So where did this come in? It was society. It was me going to public schools and then starting to compare, and me seeing the TV shows. And so we have something that they call dominant narrative. And the dominant narrative suggests that it is what it is. It is exactly how it sounds. And it's like this we hear things like Marilyn Monroe, blonde bombshells, Birkin bags, which is overly priced. And Jane Birkin was just, I don't want to reduce her, but she was a model. Somebody wanted to, she's not even the person who designed the bag. Somebody just wanted to design a bag and name it after a famous model. This has been, I don't know how many years, but culturally, the fact that you can't reach for a Dorothy Dandridge bag next to the Birkin bag suggests that society is constantly saying, and so those with the money, the biggest platforms and the biggest voices get to say that this is what we're doing this year. And everybody else has to skin bleach or implant or my hair doesn't grow that way or that length. So can you put something in it? And that's the scary part for me, because I remember how society caused me to look at my mother like she wasn't pretty anymore, just because I didn't know how to answer the questions of why did she cut her hair. And just to lift up my mother, Teresa Ann, Terry Ann, who I like to call her affectionately, she cut her hair because she said that hair did not define her as a woman. And that was one of the most powerful things that I had heard. And it was like, wow, okay, thank you for that enlightenment. But it took me years to finally have the courage to ask her and really wanted an answer. Before that, she would blow me off. Like, what you mean? I do what I want to in my hair and I'm fly as on, you know? So that was mama's confidence. But I really wanted to know. And I was what they would call chauvinistic, I guess, at the point. So I not only asked a direct question, I asked it with, shouldn't a woman do this though? And then that's when I was checked and also schooled. And so since then it's been like, oh, okay, everybody express themselves how they want. But then there's that thin line of, are you doing this by yourself or were you an influence? And so I know I just talked a lot, y'all forgive me, but I've been excited to have this conversation for a minute, because one of the things that I talked to my daughter about was, I remember the same transformation happened for little girls. The mother, the grandmother, cousins, older sisters, aunts, especially those aunts from out of town that know how to braid and put those beads in it. And that's the hairstyle for the summer. And then by the time they hit 7th grade, it's like, I want to do my own hair. I want a perm. And then it's different. And that's not for all little girls, but it's something that I witnessed that said it wasn't just me. They weren't just attacking me that made me look at my mother different. They were literally attacking little girls, little black and brown girls, and saying, you're not all the way there yet. So the same feeling I would have is just being a little boy. I realized that they were doing this to little girls in groves. I mean, especially young black and brown girls. You couldn't even look at the movies and see representation for like, I don't know how long. And it still plays out like that sometimes. So, and I want to lift up the only reason why there's not more of a diverse panel as far as including men was strictly because of scheduling conflicts. That's it. This is not just a strictly a woman thing. This is a cultural thing that they jam it down our throats all the time. And how did it affect you all growing up? I'm gonna start with Deborah on this one, because you not only do hair, but you actually wear your hair short as well, which you didn't always do. You wore, I ain't gonna tell it, I'll let you tell it on yourself, the different things you've done with your hair. But how did some of those early standards of how they made beauty affect you growing up?
I'll start by going back to part of the first question. My answer for that, right at home. Understand, I am a medium to dark brown black girl. My mother has a light complexion and green eyes. Okay. So starting there, I wondered, hold on, what's the deal? Why don't I look like that? That was the first thing. But as I said before, growing up in the family that I did, that was fairly quickly extinguished. And I had an understanding of, okay, it's okay to look different. It's okay to be different. And for me, that was the beginning of my air of confidence to step outside the box. A lot of people never reach that point, but myself, I grew my hair out. My hair was halfway down my back my senior year of high school. I was also in cosmetology school at the time, and I decided, you know what? I'm done with hair, so I put it in a ponytail and I cut it off at school. My instructors didn't like that too much, but that's how I was feeling, and that's the type of person I am. Some call it impulsive. I call myself a chameleon. It just you have it comes from a place, and it comes from a place of not wanting to be put in a box. You can't tell me that I have to wear this. You can't tell me. Sorry about that, you guys. It is loud. It's all kinds of chainsaws and everything outside my window.
No problem.
But you can't tell me that I have to do this. I have to wear this. I have to have a relaxer. I have to have long hair, because guess what? No, I don't. Somebody made that up. I'm not sure who, but I'm not the one to put in a box. It's hard. It becomes uncomfortable when you know that you don't feel comfortable following the masses, or keeping up with the Joneses, as they like to say. I've never been comfortable with that. And for myself, that's always been my outlet. That's been my go-to. My hair is short and purple now. You can all see. I've had every color in the rainbow. It's been every length you can think of, every style imaginable. And I'm not done. But that comes from being put in a box, being told you're too dark, or your hair is too nappy, or you dress funny, or those different things. That is what builds the type of person that you see today, myself. That's what comes as a result of that. Or if you don't have proper guidance, which is the scary side of it, it can go a whole nother way, where people become seriously introverted, self-harm, and a whole lot of other things. That's what I don't like. And among my own clients, I speak to them about those different things, because I work with some younger people. I work with different young ladies and young men, to where I'm able to say, hey, you want to try something different? Because they confide different things in me. As a stylist, I get that confidence. And I've had young men tell me, I thought about dyeing my hair blue, but I don't want nobody to say XYZ. And we all know what XYZ is. I encourage them to be who they are and comfortable within who they are, because don't let anyone allow you to be. Don't allow yourself to be put in a box, or anyone to put you there. I promote that. I stand behind that, and I'm sure I always will. If I guess Francis, you don't know, Kathy and Ed do know, Kalia is my niece. She has been wearing locks. She's been wearing locks since she was 5 years old, and she's proud of her hair. She's beautiful with her hair, and that's what I instill in my clients, as well as any other youth or people that I encounter. Don't allow yourself to be put in a box. That's my stand on that.
Thank you very much for that, and going in on the different colors that you put in your hair. That's that expression. I appreciate that. I remember the first time begging my mother if I could dye a tail. I had a tail, and I was like, just let me put some dye on there. She was like, I don't know if you can do that. And I had to beg, like literally. I got to kick it over to Francis, because again, with your introduction, so culturally, this is something I found out historically. So this is right up your lane right here with the history. So culturally, Black and brown people were not quote unquote thin, which is why all of my older ancestors to this day hug me and say, have you lost weight? And I say, I'm the same size the last time you hugged me. you got to eat more. You got to because traditionally, historically, culturally, we ate, we also worked, but the way that our bodies were actually, again, culturally, and I don't want to go down the race tunnel because there's a lot that comes with that. But I will say, and this can be fact checked, the skinny, quote unquote, body type started being pushed from European. That and what's weird about that is because within their history, and Francis, you probably know this as well, which is why you pointed out that the stomach on Venus. Traditionally, even in white cultures, weight was considered prosperous. Like these are the things that America made weight a thing. And when they made it a thing, it was, again, the same thing that they did when Deborah brought up nappy hair. Oh, growing up in a predominantly Black city and hearing so much of that, and hearing women flat out, like Francis, you remember one of our previous conversations, women will select from the culture of saying, I'd rather have a child by that guy because my baby will have good hair. And so that if you don't have that texture of hair, there's a certain part of you that feels inadequate, ugly, not so pretty. And society said this, but when you learn what thick hair is, how protective it is, how much it is ours, like there's just something with that. There's a strength and a power with that. And I have to go here. I have to. I never forget when I learned. So they have a story of Samson and Delilah in the Bible, and Samson was said to have strength. He also had long hair. And I remember when a guy pointed out to me, and this is in the Bible, it's in the Word, when Delilah was trying to figure out the secret to his strength, and he was giving all these false answers. One of the things he said was, if you pin one of my locks to the bed, I won't be able to move. And I remember the guy looked at me in my face and said, what type of texture of hair do you have to have in order for it to lock and in order for it to be pinned? And I was like, wow. I said, you mean to tell me? Like, nobody ever explained that the characters of the Bible were of a darker hue and come from a region. And I know I'm going off again, but these are the things that were stolen and picked at, and just, so now it's short, you're not tall enough. I was told I'm too thin to win in anything growing up, which gave me not a Napoleon complex, but like I would overreact in situations to prove that I can hang with the toughest. But again, going to, if I hear all this as a man that's quote unquote too thin to win, or you too skinny, or get some meat on your bones, and then you started your introduction off saying fat, society will tell us, they'll put us in a place, okay, well, Ed is skinny over here, Francis, you fat, you stand over here. And it's like, wait a minute, I'm a person first and foremost. And then, like, touching on some of the things Deborah said and some of the things I've been subjected to, those gender identities of how you automatically come out and just, well, wrap her up in the pink blanket and put him in the blue blanket, and we'll figure it out as time goes. And we'll tell them, you can't play with that toy, you can't do that. It's those type of small things. And then somebody like, and you don't have to put anybody on blast, whether it's society or home. But when we start hearing certain things, I learned who I look like, who I favored, how tall I might be, how much weight I might have. Like, family would sit there and, oh, well, he's like this and he's like that, and he's not dark as his uncle, and you hear it there first, and you got your own questions. But then when you go out and you hear different things, I just wanted you to really expand on that, because I told everybody I knew you was gonna bring it, because not only are you just a dope human being, but you have a lens on what society has done to a lot of us, and I just really appreciate your perspective. So here we go. I gotta hear this, because I know you're gonna teach, and I'm learning right now.
Thank you. Thank you so much for those kind words. A few things. I'm gonna try really, really hard in general to not go down the anti-blackness rabbit hole, because that is deeply entrenched. And I think when we get later on in the agenda, I will kind of bring that out and expand on that. But what I will say, I call myself fat, and it's real funny. The women in my family are big women. My mom always said it. She'd be like, like everybody's is a big woman. Everybody's big. But yet it was like, oh, slow down, you're eating too much. Oh, wait a second. Like, your clothes don't really fit anymore. And, out of all my friends, I was always the fat friend. And fat was flung at me as an insult my entire life. So I had to really, let's just say, Deborah, I really want to comment on the thing that you said, which I think is crucial, is the idea of beauty standards is directly linked to esteem and self-esteem. And whether you are affirmed at home or not makes all the difference, right? Because what I have found in my work in youth development is when you are affirmed young and you stand rooted in your identity and self-love, the world really can't do much. They will try, right? But you can't do much. So, with that said, I don't know if I had that affirmation at home. I got gordita, which means like little fat girl, right? And it's a term of endearment but also insulting, as many Hispanic and Spanish terms of endearment are. So I was gordita, right? And I was called all types of cute little animals at home because I was big. And I was always the fat friend. And when I went out to the club, I was the fat friend who didn't get the attention and all this stuff because I didn't fit beauty standards, right? So it's wild though, because like I'm lighter skinned, right? I've always had really long hair, whether it was relaxed or not, and all types of stuff. But because I was big, I was never really given the time of day, which is wild. And I've always gotten oh, you're really pretty for a fat girl. You're really pretty for a big girl. And I'm just like, y'all, I'm pretty, period. Right? But what I will say is there is a lot in the Western world. Let me get back on my history soapbox. In the Western world, there's a lot of misconceptions around weight and weight being a marker for health. And in addition, there's actually a link between things that are traditionally thought to be unhealthy and the idea of disgust. So there's actually a podcast, and I'll link that to you, Ed, sometime, but there's a podcast that talks about disgust and why things that we are disgusted by, things like mold or things that smell funny, is typically because they're not healthy, right? So think about things that you're like, ew, like if I saw that, that's like nasty and gross, because traditionally, evolutionarily, we are taught and we have like mechanisms in our brain that make us disgusted by things that will make us unhealthy. So with that said, fat phobia really began because we were deemed unhealthy and we were deemed lazy, and they didn't really consider that maybe my family's just big. You know what I'm saying? Because all through high school I was big. As a kid I was big. I was active. There was a point where I was like 250 pounds, could run a mile without losing my breath. Can I do it now? The pandemic has been wild, y'all. But what I will say is like, it wasn't a marker for health. You know what I'm saying? So when I call myself fat, it is not an insult. It is almost maybe just a description of who I am. I'm just fat. That's okay. Just like I'm lighter skinned, I'm just fat, and that's fine. And people go, "Oh, right, PHAT, right?" That too, but just fat, and that's okay. And we have to be okay with in addition to advising people to do things that are of European beauty standards, like straighten their hair and stuff like that, we also have to shy away from telling people they are too big and they need to lose weight, especially if it's none of your business, right? And especially if it's somebody that you care about and you know that their health is fine and their weight is not affecting their health, you can just leave them alone. And we give good hugs. So all of that, all of those things are great, So, I mean, I'm all right. Do I have some health things going on right now that are related to other things? Yes. Could I stand to lose a couple pounds? I'm sure, but I'm never going to be no size 0. I'm just not. And that's okay. Thank you.
No, thank you. I knew you was going to bring it because you always do. I had no idea that you was going to introduce yourself like that at all. But when you did, I was like, boom, this is the perfect time to ask this question in relation to, because especially when you brought up the laziness, so they had this whole obesity thing. And what they linked it to actually was that we were all eating horrible foods. But how society works, the same way now, this is off subject slightly, but now I just heard about some gene that's supposed to make Black people more prone to violence, some MO, whatever this is. And it's like, that's how they do. They take small study groups and they say, well, we've been feeding kids unhealthy food in schools for over 20 years. Piece of chicken nuggets, French fries, and soda and all these things. And then they took and they made the thing obesity. And they didn't care about me. If I got diabetes or asthma or none of the health related things that I got from eating garbage. Ed, you cool. We're dealing with obesity right now. And it's like, that's exactly what happened in American society. It did not make them feed us more healthy foods. Some of the things that's in our foods is like poison, to say the least. But yeah, that's society. So if I go, 5 of us can do all of the same thing, but if it results in me getting harmed, then all of a sudden it's the new don't do what Ed does. And it might have been because he was this height. And I think it's tragic that you lifted up, Francis. I think it was powerful that you did to have the insight on this is what our culture holds as high regard: light skin, good hair, long hair. Oh, but you're too heavy, or you're too, and it's like, what is that? So I really appreciate you breaking that down to be able to say that, because one of the things that has always bothered me, and since we're talking about beauty standards within the Black and brown culture, so a white woman said tall, dark, and handsome in a movie. And it was like, who are you describing? Because they was talking about white men, and this was said to be regarded toward Clark Gable. And it's like, he's not dark, you know what I mean? So it's like, you're saying it, but you don't really want us at the table, you know what I mean? And it's like, that's where I get into the mind frame of saying the trick that's been played on us. Like, I think, not to blame a specific race of people or a specific person, but I think those that promote constantly this one side, I think that they know better. That's just my honest opinion. I think they know what melanin is. I think they know what lip injections does for people who don't necessarily have that. I think there's a knowledge, but I think it's more powerful for whoever it is in the driver's seat to make sure we don't know that knowledge. Because if we don't love ourselves, then it's easier for me to not show love to any of you all, and so on and so forth, which perpetuates genocide and some other things. Kathy, when I went to week long, one of the trainers was a woman I respect. She does go by the title as a woman, but she does not identify. Okay, so let me stop there. I don't want to tell too much of her story. What I will tell is that by the time she hit the 6th grade, she said she was about 6 feet tall, and her feet was bigger than normal little girls. So she was tall. So she got called things like Jolly Green Giant and a lot of different things that made her feel less than a woman. And she was like, wow, like, just because I'm tall, like, I don't understand. And she found herself stooping, ducking. And I never forget having a conversation with her and telling her that, yeah, my oldest son's mother is taller than me. And she just cracked up laughing. And she was like, well, wow, you kind of tall. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, she's tall too. And I never heard anybody express that when she shot up past everybody. And I'm definitely not saying that that's your experience at all, but it did make me think of you when she was sharing this. Like, again, some more knowledge of me not thinking. I never would have thought like that, but the people she grew up around did. And she had a battle. She said until everybody else caught up with her, which was about the 11th grade, she had shot past everybody. And like I said, it made me bring you up. So I want to, again, that's not your story, but it made me think of you. And so I'm segueing to you on how did some of those things affect you growing up, society, saying things.
Well, I'm gonna start off by saying that I wasn't tall for a long time. So it's like, to get in to play basketball for a long time, I was a guard, and then it was like all of a sudden, like you said, it shot up. But at the same time, like you said, begins in the household. So it wasn't unusual when I have a mom standing at 5'10", a dad standing at 6'3". So my height didn't seem like it was unusual to be growing because we come from tall people. But at the same time, like you said, it's going to be society. The where the same way they can make fun of you about your weight, they're going to make fun of you whether you skinny, they're going to make fun of you whether they feel you're overweight, whether you too tall, whether you too short. And so for me, it was like I embraced my height that allowed me to be in the sports and everything else. And I think for my mom to be a tall, strong Black woman, it was like, that was something good to say. Now I'm a tall, statuesque Black woman. You carry yourself and you take that. And I think that's one of the things where that's how it is with people. It's like we have to be proud of who we are and how we are born to say how we're going to express ourselves. But yeah, society is going to paint pictures. Society is going to expect you to be this or be that. And if you're not forming, and I think the thing is like to come from a strong Black woman, to be a strong Black woman, and then to be 5'11" and a strong Black woman, do you know how intimidating that can be to a lot of people? And it's like, get to know me, versus, you kind of see a big Black woman coming in. It's almost that same statistic of how you want to categorize a big Black man. So it's like we stereotype, we put into categories, and that comes from how you wear your hair and everything else. It's like everybody just kind of want to pinpoint you and don't even know you. And I think that's the thing. Everybody, even though if I have dreads and Kalia have dreads, that don't make us the same people. We still two different people. We have two different identities. To say, get to know her for who she is and get to know me for who I am. But yeah, it's like so much that we grow up with and different things. And that's the thing. It's like you definitely have to embrace, because everything that people see as a negativity is not always negative. It can be positive. I'm sorry, because my AirPod fell out. But it definitely can be positive. And I think that's the thing. It's like just always having encouraging words also to say, when I look at you, Deborah, and I look at Kalia, and like I said, I've been there. I've been on a journey from her dread starting. And it's like, it's always been that positivity. That positivity. And I see Kalia sitting there now, head held high. That's what we need to do. Continue. Like, hey, what that shirt say? Empowering women, empowering women. That's it. Got to keep doing it.
Thank you for that. I love that. Yeah. Before I pass it over to you, Miss Kalia, I want to say, just lifting up what you were saying, Kathy. How do I frame it? One, I want to say this. Kalia, you're on this call with a bunch of adults saying how we figured it out. And so I want to give you your props for already being in that mind frame of saying I'm cool right now, because that's dope. And then before turning it over to you and saying, like, what do you have that the rest of us can learn from and the rest of the society can tap into, that confidence and that knowing you are beautiful and just standing on that, I want to lift up that Madam C.J. Walker, who was taught by a woman named Mary Turnbull on how to, this is fascinating to me. The first woman millionaire, not first Black woman millionaire, first woman millionaire, got her house built from the ground up. Her daughter was a Harlem socialite, which means like how we see Paris Hilton and the people now that don't do nothing but just get paid to show up to clubs. This was all her daughter had to do. Was during the Harlem Renaissance, she hosted parties and things like that. She was like upper elite, upper class elite. Her mother sold Black hair care products door to door. This is fascinating to me that she didn't cross over to make her $1 million. She sold Black hair care products to women. So that again splits your money again. So this is like this is no white people in the crossover. And this is like not really a lot of men. This is Black women learning how to take care of their own hair. And the woman who taught her didn't hit the million mark, but Mary Turnbull she's straight. She's straight. She taught Madam C.J. Walker the whole game. And not only did they sell Black hair care products door to door, but she also opened up schools from here to the Caribbean where they taught other people how you too can do the same type of thing. When I learned this, I was blown away because none of these schools exist. And that's, again, something happened to us on purpose. So we could not grow up with this economic justice or just cultural justice for ourselves. So even though a lot of that was erased, a lot of that was tucked away, I didn't learn that until I was a grown man. It wasn't in my history books, things like that. We still have somebody like Kalia on this call who's confident and, like Kathy just said, head hanging high. What is this? Where are you getting this from? What is this? Because society ain't sharing this with you. And I know you have a great family that's encouraging and giving you things, but what is it that doesn't make you buy into what society or what the world is saying?
Well, having my mom and my aunt and my grandma to tell me that it doesn't matter what other people have to say about me, it's what I think. And like, I had friends, at least I thought I had friends, and they would ask me, how are you not insecure about being dark skinned and having a hairstyle that boys wear? And I said, it's not only boys, it's girls too. And I'm not insecure to be dark skinned because I think that dark skin and having a lot of melanin is actually beautiful. And And at a point in time, I was insecure about being dark skinned, actually, and I actually wished I was light skinned, but I don't want to be light skinned. I'm glad that I'm actually dark skinned, and I'm like glad that I have my aunt to tell me that I'm beautiful just the way I am, just dark skin, and I'm actually think I'm pretty myself.
Well, you definitely are. Wow, you bringing it, and I really appreciate you just bringing it. Can I ask how old you are again, so the people can know?
Yes, I'm gonna be 12 next week on Wednesday.
Y'all hear this? Though the people who you talked about that said that, one of the things we talked about before, Francis, when we were on the call, and we discussed that the mean things that little kids say they're hearing from adults, because they didn't make that up on their own. They're hearing that dark is not okay. And somebody said that, and it's like, wow, how do you say? And then how do you pose a question like that to say, like they're suggesting those thoughts onto you, like you should be insecure. And it's like, wow, well, I don't feel that way. And that's exactly how society works. We learn things in our household. Some people are not learning the greatest things in their households, and they're going to school and they're repeating them to the classmates. And then if you're not confident, or you don't have what Kalia just lifted up, which is having strong family support, you sit in the room by yourself and question what's wrong with you. What's wrong? And that's a hurtful place. That's a hurtful place to put somebody in, but people do it. Like one of the things we discussed, sometimes they do it out of pure hate and ignorance. But sometimes, and this is the real sad part in my opinion, society says this is right. Anything you do outside of that, you could be teased. You don't want to be teased, do you? People will bully you. You don't want to be bullied, do you? Or like in my case, I've heard things, everything from you're gonna go to jail, you will be killed. And I'm like, dang, just for like, I didn't do nothing. I'm just trying to be me. And I'm not talking about wearing a t-shirt with a statement or standing on a corner. I'm talking about just a haircut. And it's like, what am I doing? What am I not seeing? And society will fill you up with their fears and prejudices. And I watch men do it. They take it and then pass it on to the little boys. You can't do this because they told me I can't do this. And so that's one of the downsides. I have to share that when I was in KPEP, I said I was going to say this. Another thing, one of those reinforcements. So yes, I am formerly incarcerated, directly impacted. So I was in a halfway house called KPEP, which is Kalamazoo Probation Enhancement Program. And I had long hair then, and I was on my way to work, and I was told by one of the white counselors that they had it on the board that I could not sign out with my afro picked out. I was like, what? And it was like, yeah, you have to put it in a ponytail. You have to do something. I was like, what? Wait a minute. Like, this doesn't. And I was telling Kathy this morning, I remember that first day, I'm trying not to be late to work. And you have to stand at a piece of tape to say, may I approach before you leave? And then they have to, frisk you, you sign out, you do all these things. So you can't go to the door until it's time for you to leave. You can't leave an hour before and say, I'm leaving now. So you have to leave when it's your turn for your shift. I remember not knowing what to do and just feeling like crazy and trying to water it down and push it back as much as I can. My hair is thick. And so that was like not working. So the next the next time I had to sign out and they tried that again, I had to have a white guy stand next to me. He pulled his hair out and I pulled mine, and it was the same length. And I had to show to them that this is discrimination because our hair is the same length. Mine's just grow like this. And I'm not putting it in a ponytail, and I can't get it braided until I'm home on a furlough. So right now, this is what I have to do. And those were one of the things that constantly I've heard about Black men having to cut their locks based off their profession, or they can't be promoted. I've heard about a guy that had the Allen Iverson braids, which for those who don't know, they're the cornrows with the designs in them. You maybe zigzag or make a square or something. This guy worked at an insurance place, State Farm, and his coworker said that they felt intimidated by his hair. And so he had to switch his hairstyle up. And lastly, I want to lift up the Olympics just banned the swimming caps for natural hair. These are the things that reinforce, that make somebody sit on the edge of the bed and say, okay, I was creative all through high school, creative all through college. I have a family now. I can cut my hair to feed my family. And it's like, whoa, wait. That's not a sign of maturity or a sign of you growing up. That's a sign of you giving up something that you shouldn't have to, because who said that? And how does this affect you doing your job? You know, like if it's a safety reason and your locks can get caught in a grinder or something, and they say you got to wear it wrapped up, I get that. But you got to cut it or you won't get a promotion. That's racism. If that's a form of racism. It's on the racist tree, in my opinion. And it enforces Black and brown people to say, let me go get it. When we see Black men cut all their facial hair off, we assume that they're going to court within the Black culture, or you're going to get a job where you have to spiffy it up to a point. It's just gross when it goes to a certain point. And again, I'm gonna shut up. This is just one of those real touchy subjects for me. That's like, why don't we spend multi-million, I mean millions and millions of dollars every year on hair care products, and we don't own any of the places. And it's like, the most high priced things that you can imagine, poor people, which is driven by capitalism. There are more people who are financially unstable buying Jordans than there are people who are financially stable. And those are some of the tricks that they use to say, you need these shoes and you're the man, and you have to have this jacket with it. And then we'll take those things, like I did, to a single mother that's working to take care of you and your siblings and say, I have to have these shoes or I can't go to school no more. Like true story. I can't go to school in the shoes that you bought me last year because they'll talk about me. And we start putting that things on other people, and then internalizing and taking those things on our own. I know people that don't even take days off work really because they're constantly trying to get something, even though they never get a chance to enjoy it. Again, I just went way too far. So I have a question from, well, that was more of a comment. Okay, so I'm gonna go to the last question on the agenda, which is, in today's world, how do you develop self-love, self-care, and self-respect when it comes to beauty? And I think a lot of y'all have been already kind of answering that, but this is like so straight out. In today's world, how do you develop self-love, self-care, and self-respect, especially when all of these odds? Right now, we can Google everything. Once upon a time, it was just a magazine stand, but now it's everywhere. Francis, I see your smile. I got to go to you first. Like, how how do you develop that? Or if you have already developed it, how does one maintain that in today's world?
Ooh, Ed Genesis. Wow. What a question. I read this question on the agenda and I was like, dang, that's a loaded question, y'all. So I have a couple of things. I'm gonna kind of wrap a bunch of things into it. So number one, I'm still figuring that out. I'm gonna keep it a buck with y'all. Like, I'm still figuring out exactly what makes me happy about what I look like. Exactly to maintain. Exactly like, do I like my hair like this? Do I need to change it? Am I allowed to change it? I'm still questioning that, and I'm in my 30s, and I think honestly, like, let me just tell you a little bit of advice for my friends out there. 20s is hard. The 30s and above is where it's at. Let me tell you something. There's just a lot more comfort because I've kind of lived in this body for 30 something years, right? And I know some things that it does, and I know some things that it doesn't. I know some things that I like and I know some things that I don't. So I have a couple of things. Number one, I think it's important to question your beauty standards. Actually take some time and think like, okay, I think this is beautiful. I really like the way this looks, but why? Is it because of white dominant culture? Is that what it is? Is it because of capitalism? Is that what it is? Man, let me tell y'all something. I really wanted to spend $200 on sneakers this summer. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. And I was like, why do I really want these sneakers? Because they ugly. But because everybody else got them, I thought I needed them. You know what I'm saying? So white dominant culture. Number two, I think it's important to remember who your peers are and what kind of things that they're buying into as well. Because plenty of Black people are anti-Black. I had a dean tell me one time, I had a student come in. I used to teach middle school for a long time. A student come in. She had to take out her braids because her mom needed to wash her hair, but her mom had an emergency and couldn't braid her hair again. So she came to school with an afro. The dean said, you need to go home. You can't look like that. And the dean is a black woman who has worn weave for the longest time, so bad that like her edges are thinning and you can see her actual hair is thinning, but constantly puts the hair back in, straightens that leave out. And I'm like, sis, like, you are damaging your crown by buying into that. If you had just worn your hair, you'll be all right, right? But you're literally damaging yourself to achieve a standard. So I had to sit in my classroom on my off period and braid this girl's hair because she couldn't go home. You know what I'm saying? So that was wild. With that said, I do wanna say it's important for you not only to question your beauty standards, but it's important for you to explore what you like. So just like Deborah said, I done had hair all shades, all colors, all lengths. It's important for you to be able to explore and just know that in a lot of our families and a lot of our younger lives, we aren't given that chance to do things differently. Like, Ed, you want to dye your hair blue, and you were told like, no. We may not get that. So sometimes our 20s are kind of a rough time, right? We dye our hair, we change our style, we start acting some kind of way, and it really isn't a time of exploration. I think that's huge. I think taking the time to do things differently, I think changing your appearance or changing what you like is important. I think it's important for you to explore and see what it is, right? And you can try something different with your hair. You can explore different cultures and see what they think of beauty standards and see how other people are dressing around the world and getting some inspiration. I think that's huge. Try different things and don't be scared to try something new. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's huge. And then the last thing I'm going to leave you with, which I think is crucial, because I've heard natural hair be mentioned several times, and I did mention sis with the leave out and straightening the leave out. Like the hugest thing I want to leave as a takeaway for you to take care of yourself is to not judge others on their choices. That's huge for me because, for example, my hair has been natural, like without a relaxer for several years, but it is still long. And some people find it very, very beautiful. I get lots of compliments. I appreciate that. But I think it's important for you to mind your business and let people do what they want to do. So although I mentioned sis straightened her leave out, her own hair is kind of breaking and stuff like that, but I can't judge her because that is her ideals. Those are her thoughts. And I think it's important that when people want to do things, whether they want to get implants, whether they want to modify their body, if they want tattoos, if they want to change their hair, they want to straighten it, I think it's important to let them do what they want to do. They are welcome to. I will encourage everyone to kind of question their biases and their standards, because I think that's always crucial in the way that we grow and learn. Question why you feel the way you feel about things, and constantly do that kind of self reflection. But then also mind your business, because I think that when you let other people do their thing, and people see that you're not bothered, you can then live in your own truth and do what you want. Right? Does that make sense? Like, all right, I'm done, y'all. I'm done.
That makes too much sense. That's it right there. That's the mic dropper. People minding their own business, but then also checking that, where did you learn that from? I think that's very important for Black and brown people to ask that question of, where did you actually learn that from? Because some of it could be self-hate, and we should question that. I love how you put that. Is it driven by capitalism? Like, do I want this because this will make me feel more important? Because the life that I live, capitalism drove poverty into my town, so I could not afford these things growing up. So now I want them all because they will make me feel whole. I had to check that about myself, definitely. And then, of course, what you brought up, I think that was the mic dropper, in my opinion, which is you got to make sure you weren't taught, which a lot of us were, the self-hate. It took a lifetime before I saw Black Panther on the screen. Other than that, it was Christopher Reeve. Michael Keaton was Batman. Every superhero that we saw did not look like me. And so that does play with the psyche a little bit. It does. So Kalia, the same question. How do you develop or maintain in this society? So I'm gonna ask you, since you like so much on point anyway, and we're all learning a lot from you, how do you maintain going forward in this type of world where people may not agree with all of the things that you're saying?
Well, I just don't listen to what other people have to say about me, like rude comments on like to me and about me, and I just listen to what my parents tell me. Like, doesn't matter what people have to say about you, really. It's what you think. Like I said before, and like people tell me that my hair, I should never did that. I should have kept flat ironing it like I used to. Like, I got it flat ironed there a couple times. I should have did that instead of twisting my hair. But I wanted my hair locked because I really liked locks, and I've had them for years. And they tell me I should cut them, but I cut them because I've had them for so many years, and I just really like having locks. And about my skin color, I really like being dark.
Okay, they got kicked off. I'm gonna wait till she come back. But she just been dropping bombs today. I love that you can't get us all with the same trick over and over again. It does not work like that. So Kathy, I'm gonna have you chime in until they get back online. How do you develop or maintain in today's world?
I think for me, because I've always been an individual. Do you want them to go ahead and finish before?
I'm gonna go
Because
back
they
to them.
made it back. Okay. Um, I think for me, because I've always been an individual, I've always been strong-minded, and I've always tried not to allow people to judge or clouding my judgment, and just kind of stand strong about what it is that I believe. So, like I said, even to say having natural hair, people looking at you crazy. Like I said, for a lot of men, that also became a turn off, but it wasn't going to make me turn around and say, well, you know what, I guess I'll flat iron my hair because I'm seeing that a lot of men don't like it. It's about just staying true to who you are. And so even now, I'm not going to divulge my age, but at the same time, it's like I had them tell me, because it's like, it took a long time for me to put color in my hair, and I was blonde for so many years. And then just over the past couple years, I got to the point like, hey, let me hit some different colors. And I was told I was too old for that. You like literally. And it was like, but then my thing is, okay, I don't care what people think, I'm gonna throw this color in there, so it's like now I get the compliments and stuff from the different colors. And I think that's the whole thing for me, is just being real and not making or doing anything because of society or anyone else's opinion. I'm doing it for myself. So when it come down to the hair, when it come down to the nails, like I said, being a nail tech, I enjoy doing nails because I love the design of nails. Not so much as doing them, filling them, and, doing full sets, but designing. And I feel like a lot of times people nails are a representation of who they are. So the different things that they want done, or, to their nails. And so that's one of the things, like I said, for me, it wasn't even so much as wanting to have my nails done or keeping my nails done for society. It's just really a part of me being who I am and a part of expression. So I feel like as long as everybody is true to who they are, and you loving yourself and you have self-love, and the decisions that you make are because of who you are, and you making them for you and because of the individual and not because of society, there's not going to be anyone that's going to be able to deflect what it is that you're doing. You're going to stand strong in your decisions. Even like when it said come down to the dreads, I love the dreads. I just was talking to Deborah, like, I want dreads so bad, but I be feeling like my hair too thin. And that was just a conversation that we just had. So it's like, and probably before I go, I'm gonna have some dreads. I just be wanting to do different things. And it's just, you go through stages and just be willing to try different stuff. So that's me and my opinion on it.
I appreciate that. Yeah, and then they just got kicked off again.
Yeah.
Okay.
And as I said, it is. I think that. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you fine. I was seeing they got kicked off though. Yeah. So I guess we just keep the conversation going and see if they can jump back on.
Can I actually lean in real quick?
Yes, please.
Because I have a piece. Like as I mentioned that I'm still dealing with, like, what do I like? Do I like myself? Do I love myself? I think it's a lifelong journey for some, right? Some people are very secure in who they are, and some people aren't, and that's fine. That's on them and their journey. I think it's important also to talk about mental health here, and surround yourself with people who love you, right? And also do a lot of reflection. It takes a lot of self work, and I think our outward appearance, I'm a firm believer in fake it till you make it. So like I may not really love the way I look, but I'm gonna just do this hair, right? And I'm gonna just like do a thing and feel good that way. So I think it's important to connect that outer and inner, right? What about my appearance makes me feel good inside? And if inside I have a need to want to look a particular way, I'm gonna try that. But it's important to keep that self-esteem and mental health involved too, because an appreciation of oneself comes a lot from self-love, right? And doing what you need to do to make that happen. Because there's a lot of people who look a kind of way, but then they don't love themselves. Oh, they're back. They're back.
Okay. Y'all want to chime in while you're on real fast? Khalil, you want to finish your thank you, Francis, for allowing that space. And for sharing. Well, were you done? Khalil, you want to finish your thought? It's messing up.
I'm gonna jump in real quick. I was gonna say, yeah, when it start lagging, it makes it hard to come off of mute and stuff.
Okay. Well, we're about to close out anyway, and all of y'all brought some very valuable information to this conversation. We say it all the time, and I'm gonna have to say it on this one, Francis. You know what I'm finna say. We gotta have a part two. we have to have a part two because we discussed some things, and I think we can go a little deeper, especially because I think we kept it very loving today and uplifted one another, which I think is dope. And it's very uplifting for our community and our culture. But we have to dive a little deeper into the fact that this is racist. And that's one of the things that we dealt with growing up. And I had no idea why. I had no idea of why every picture I see of Jesus is white, even in a predominantly Black city. And even in my grandmama's house, like, this ain't the church, this is your house. You chose to hang this. And it was because they were shown that this is it. And if they hung up anything differently, then it's like, it's almost blasphemous. There was a Good Times episode where J.J. Evans actually drew a Black Jesus, and his mother was like, what are you doing? And those are some of the things that has been done to us. You even had the woman on Fox News that said, everybody knows Santa Claus is white the same way Jesus is white. And she publicly said this, and it was like, wow. And this was only because somebody was trying to make Santa Claus a little more inclusive for people like us that grow up. Everybody that's in a form of authority has been white. Or every Disney princess up until a certain point, or every Marvel and DC comic up to a certain point. Everything that they showed us growing up, from Punky Brewster to Small Wonder, unless it was Different Strokes or Webster, which is Black kids adopted by white families. So everything about us was like your life, your hair, your skin color, your lips, your nose, everything is unpretty. And the only way you can get closer to pretty is if you transform yourself. So I remember what young Michael Jackson looked like, because he's from Gary, and so we would celebrate that. And I remember not the skin conditions he went through, but the transformation that he actually put himself through. And we all know what that is, because they do it to you all the time in this society. So I want to thank you all for being so vulnerable and real, sharing your truths. From Kalia, you gave me chills, like your resilience, your courage, is something that should be modeled. People can stand and learn a lot from you. Thank you so much for bringing like your truth today, and your resilience. The fact that like they didn't stop you, they ain't knock you down. That is like, that's beautiful within itself. And just thank you for that. Thank you all for everything that you all shared, because everybody went so deep today. That's why I said we have to have a part two, because this speaks so much to how we feel going in to fill out an application for a job. The person that's trying to like you or date you, the person that's just being your friend, even. You have to wonder after a while, after society is beating you down so much, why? And then there's that flip side of, I remember feeling like, wow, I'm, excuse me, I'm okay too. Because you feeling so ostracized, like you're the black sheep of the family. You always in trouble. And in my mind, I thought trouble was associated with the frog, snails, puppy dog tails. I thought, you know, if I smell like outside and I can't sit on the couch and we can't do all of this, then ain't I supposed to be rough, tough, and dangerous? And it's like, you know, and society puts so much mixed messages in your head that I just want to thank you all for being here in sound mind and body, and being able to articulate your stories. I hope this wasn't re-triggering for anybody. I hope this was uplifting. It was definitely uplifting for me. I learned a lot. And just thank you. Thank you all for like keeping it real and being here. And all of the work that you all do that radiates beyond you just being who you are as human beings. Please continue that. And y'all will be hearing something about a part 2. Probably getting ready to go back to school or something. Maybe we can influence some things. So thank you all again for being here. Yeah, peace.